the big story of the day. After more than 100 days of war and a newly signed peace deal between U.S. and Iran, a prediction Donald Trump made back in 2020 is now back in focus. He had said, and I quote, "Iran never wins a war, but they never lose a negotiation." That statement is now at the heart of a growing global debate. Even though the fighting has stopped, the big question is who gave up first? And on that, we have a breaking update coming in, a statement that has come in from Donald Trump, because hours after U.S. and Iran formally signed their peace deal, President Donald Trump has issued a fresh statement backing the deal and expressing hope. He claimed that deal has boosted market confidence, with oil prices falling and the stocks moving higher. He also said that the country remains committed to peace and requested all the sides to stay committed to the negotiation process. Now, in a significant remark, he also said that he expects a complete ceasefire on Lebanon front as well, including between Israel and Hezbollah. And this is very important because it comes at a time when Israel is facing growing international scrutiny over attacks on Lebanon ever since the deal has been announced and also signed between the two countries. So that is the latest we are learning as far as this crucial statement by Donald Trump is concerned. Let me go across to consulting editor Srinjoy Chaudhary for more on this. Good morning, Srinjoy. Tell us, what do we know so far about the U.S. and Iran ceremony, the formal ceremony, the signing ceremony that was to take place in Switzerland? Is that going to take place?
It should take place today in Switzerland, bug and soft, but with the president being the way he is, he could well change his mind at the last minute and say it's not necessary because what has been done is already done. But one expects it in Switzerland today. And equally important is what he has said. It's very important to note that he has said he wants peace in Lebanon, which means that fighting between the Iran-supported Hezbollah and the Israelis should stop as soon as possible, or it shouldn't even happen. Now, that's something Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, opposes. But we have to see how this turns out in Lebanon, because President Trump wants peace. But at this point, there is no sign of that happening immediately, because both sides are turning a little belligerent, and they were even 48 hours ago.
All right, because we are learning that representatives from U.S. and Iran, they are expected to meet in Switzerland today to mark a deal ending the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and to start the next stage of the negotiation as well. And that is expected to start at a Qatar-owned Bergenstock resort in Switzerland. Stay on with us, Srinjoy. I'll come back to you once again. Let's tell our viewers about the Iran-U.S. peace deal that is built around 14-point MOU. And this document covers everything from ending the military action and easing sanction to restarting the oil exports and addressing concern over the nuclear program as well. Supporters are saying that it creates a clear path to peace and stability. But back in America, there are several members of the party of Donald Trump that are also saying that Iran has been given major benefits when it comes to MOU, calling this surrender, blunder, and also disasters. On that, we have another breaking update coming in as Iran's chief negotiator and Speaker of Parliament, Mohammad Ghalibaf, has said that Tehran will not tolerate breaches of the peace deal by US. He said, and I quote, "In the event of bad faith, breach of contract, excessive demand by the opposing side, we have no hesitation in delivering a crushing response to the enemy." So that's a big warning that has come in from Iran's chief negotiator. Going back to Srinjoy on this, Srinjoy, another warning that has come in from Iran. They are saying that they will not tolerate any breach of the peace deal. But the main point of the deal, and the number one point, was there will be halt on all the attacks in the region, and that also includes Lebanon. But in the past few months, I would say, we've been witnessing that first, when the ceasefire was announced, there was an attack by Israel on Lebanon. Then when the deal was announced, there was another attack. And then when the deal was signed, there was another attack by Israel on Lebanon. So that is a breach that Iran is, of course, alluding to. But the big question is Israel isolated? Are they not on board with the commitments that have been made by Donald Trump?
The Iranians have said what they've said, and so has President Trump. The point is, it's important to realize that what you say is important, but what you do is much more important. Now, at this point, there is hope because the deal was done just recently. The Americans have opened the ports. The naval blockade has been lifted. Strait of Hormuz is being opened. So as a result, you would expect that people to may say things, but clearly both sides are moving in the right direction. Both sides want peace. Both sides want an early resumption of trade in the and movement in the Strait of Hormuz. Both sides want normalcy, and which is why they've signed it. So if that is so, then clearly, very clearly, you would expect both sides to do the right things.
All right, it remains to be seen how this pans out in the coming days. At this point in time, what we can see is that the naval blockade on the Iranian ports, that has been removed. In the coming days, we are learning that the Strait of Hormuz will also be reopened. Stay on with us. Shinjo, I'll come back to you once again. We have another breaking update coming in. Let's tell you about what U.S. President Vance has said as far as the deal is concerned, because he has pointed at a breakthrough in the Strait of Hormuz, given continued oil shipments, declining oil and the gasoline prices, and the absence of attack on the commercial shipping for a second consecutive night. He also asserted that Iran's nuclear program and conventional military capabilities, they have been degraded, while also saying that the next phase would depend on whether Iran is willing to comply with the Trump's demand as far as the peace plan is concerned. Listen into what he said.
The president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people. Last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil went through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a high since the beginning of the conflict. Oil prices are down nearly at their level from the pre-war conflict. Gas prices dropped below $4 a gallon today for the first time since the conflict. And importantly, they're going to keep falling further given how low oil prices are. On the military side, the Iranians, for the second night in a row, did not shoot at any ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So far, they are honoring their end of the commitment. And on the blockade, CENTCOM has allowed north of a dozen ships to go through our naval blockade, and so we're also honoring our end of the early part of the agreement. On the military side, a couple of things that are still true and will be true whether the Iranians comply with the rest of the deal or not. Number one, their nuclear program has been completely destroyed. Their capacity for enrichment, the facilities at which they were using to develop enrichment and develop a potential nuclear weapon, those facilities are still destroyed. Their conventional military is still destroyed. Their capacity to threaten their neighbors is still largely gone. And now we see whether they are willing to comply with the next step of the president's peace plan. As you all know,
and with that, another breaking update that is coming in after Israel's objection to the peace deal. J.D. Vance has defended Trump's approach, saying that America remains one of Israel's strongest international supporters. He also said that he rebuked the critics within Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet, urging Israel to recognize the changing regional landscape. Listen into what he said.
Right, this is about regional peace. And what that means is we expect Hezbollah is not going to be firing rockets and firing drones at the Israelis. And we also expect that the Israelis are not going to be going wild in Lebanon, right? Both sides have to honor their end of the deal. Now, as you guys know, sometimes these ceasefires are a little messy. The President of the United States said this a couple of weeks ago, that a ceasefire in that region of the world just means they're shooting a little bit less at each other than they were before. What you've seen is radical progress in Lebanon. Less shooting, less firing, but you're still going to have these little flare-ups from time to time. And that's just the sort of thing that we're going to have to manage through the diplomatic process. Secretary Rubio's been sort of the person on point. It's actually worked out extraordinarily well because we do have substantially less shooting, but it's going to be something we have to manage. And eventually what we want to see is the Lebanese government, the elected representatives of the people of Lebanon, who are able to police southern Lebanon so that Hezbollah is not taking over the country, the Israelis are not threatened, and then consequently the Israelis are not attacking southern Lebanon or Beirut either. That's the plan there. You asked about the Iranian oil. Look, one of the interesting things that you've seen is that the Iranians have been completely unable to sell oil not because of sanctions, but because of the blockade. Fundamentally, the thing that we have done here, the original, what we give, what they give, is that we said we're going to lift the blockade, we're going to allow you to sell some of your oil, and they're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. We see that process starting to work already. It's going to take a little time before it picks up fully, but that's where we are today.
And now, amid reports about a possible $300 billion relief package for Iran after the deal, the Trump administration has made it quite clear that the top stance on Iran remains unchanged. Our Vice President has said that Iran will not receive any sanction relief until and unless it fully follows the terms of the newly signed agreement. Listen into what he said.
Well, number one, they would have to get a lot of money in order to rebuild their nuclear program. You're talking about billions and billions of nuclear infrastructure that the United States destroyed. In order for them to rebuild that program, they would have to get a lot of money. And we have them in an economic chokehold right now that we're not going to release until they fundamentally change their behavior. What would that look like? That would mean a real inspections regime. That would mean a real enforcement regime. As the MOU contemplates, that would mean the destruction of their enriched stockpile. All of these things are the sorts of steps you're going to take if you're serious about ending your nuclear weapons program. And that, again, is why I go back to this fundamental trade that's built into the deal. They need money to do anything. Their economy is in absolute dire straits. But in order for them to get any integration into the world economy, they're going to have to show us and verify for us.
And with that, we have another breaking update coming in. A formal signing ceremony was to take place today in Switzerland, but we are learning at this point in time that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has postponed the trip to Switzerland for talks that were originally slated for today to discuss the next steps on the agreement on ending the war in West Asia. Now, a statement has been released by White House, and it has been mentioned that, as the VP has said in the press conference, the plan for upcoming technical talks, they have not been finalized, and the U.S. delegation has been prepared to depart at the first available opportunity. But the logistics of these negotiations have never been simple or predictable. As of now, the VP is not departing tonight. He will let you know as soon as we have a concrete update about the next steps. We look forward to starting the technical talks as soon as possible. So bringing Srinjoy on this once again. Srinjoy, we're learning that J.D. Vance will not be going for the talks to Switzerland. So is that formal ceremony going to take place or not? Because we are learning that there were several delegations from other countries as well that were slated to come to Switzerland for that crucial signing ceremony. But because that signing has already happened just a few hours back, this ceremony will not be happening. And now in the latest, we're learning that White House has said that J.D. Vance is not departing for Switzerland tonight.
The president has done the signing. That was an electronic signature that the president was involved in. So as a result, this would be very good if it happened. If it doesn't happen, then even if it doesn't happen, we have to remember that the president himself has signed it. The American president has signed the peace deal while he was in France, in Versailles. And the Iranians have also signed it. President Pezeshkian has signed it. So if that is so, the deal is there. Yes, a formal signing ceremony would work very well. And we'll have to see if it actually happens in the future.
All right, it remains to be seen how this really pans out. At this point in time, we're learning that J.D. Vance will not be going to Switzerland at this point in time. We have another breaking update coming in because hours after the U.S. and Iran formally signed their peace deal, Iran's Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei has broken his silence with a carefully worded message to the Iranian people. He has confirmed that he personally approved the agreement after receiving assurance from Iranian president and security establishment that Iran's right and the so-called resistance front would be protected. But the message also carries a very clear warning for U.S. He has said that future talks with U.S. do not mean that Iran has accepted the American position, and he also said that Iran will not give in if U.S. makes what he called excessive demands in the future as well. He also took a swipe at Donald Trump, claiming that it was the American president who used every available leverage to push a deal across the finish line. So that is the latest we are learning as far as Iran's Supreme Leader is concerned. Hours after U.S. and Iran formally signed that peace deal, we have a statement from Iran's Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei. He has broken his silence with a carefully worded message to the Iranian people and also to U.S. President Donald Trump. And with this, a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.